following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello and welcome to Perspectives. My name is David Schoeneman and I'm your host on this program, and I'm the Alderman for Ward 3 here in Nashua. On Perspectives, we take a look at a variety of issues that are of interest and importance to Nashua residents and taxpayers. We do this on a local, state, and even a national level, and we do it so that you can remain informed on issues that are facing our society today. We also would like you to be an informed and wise voter when election time comes in November. Today we're going to take a look at a new initiative here in Nashua called One Greater Nashua. One Greater Nashua is an initiative to help newcomers integrate better into American society right here on the local level. With me today to talk about that is Galina Sawketch from One Greater Nashua. Galina herself is an immigrant from Chisinau, Moldova, and came to the United States about 23 years ago. Chisinau, Moldova, of course, is part of the former Soviet Union, and Galina came in as a refugee herself. I first met Galina when she and others from One Greater Nashua came to City Hall to make a presentation to the mayor and the Board of Aldermen a few weeks ago. Galina, welcome, and thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me.
Let's start with the background of One Greater Nashua and your own perspective, because you yourself were an immigrant 23 years ago. You had certain hurdles and challenges to face when you arrived here. And now we're seeing that some newcomer groups are having a hard time integrating into our society. Tell us about that experience and about One Greater Nashua.
Well, 23 years ago, I came to America, state to New Hampshire, Nashua, and there was different expectation what I will see, how I will adjust, and what I need in order to be a part of this society. And there were a lot of misunderstanding. I grew up in a closed society, so there was different knowledge about America as a culture, about political norms, about relationship between people. And also there was big hurdle related to language. Even if I tried to learn English in school and college, I came here and I was afraid actually to open door when someone knocked on the door. I didn't know how to articulate myself or how to ask questions because I was not sure that I will understand. So that was problem number one. Another surprise was relationship between people. There were different understanding what means to ask for help or to give help, to ask someone's opinion or to give your opinion, how to relate to authority, what does it mean, a relationship between man and woman, parents and children. So a lot was really new. It was actually a combination of feeling that it was excitement about something new that I never experienced before, but also there was a lot of anxiety from asking myself and reevaluating how I lived and how society lives here. And so there was question, is it right or wrong? And a lot of questions and answers were black and white. And that was, I would say, first stage of acclimatization, right and wrong. There wasn't anything in between.
It's a very interesting experience. We chatted a little bit before the show, and
Yeah.
I didn't tell you, but I spent 1 year in Taiwan a number of years ago, and I've also lived in China for a while. And as an American, as a foreigner in that country, never having been a foreigner before, because I'm from here and lived here all my life, to go into a new environment where there were certainly language struggles and there's behavioral struggles, what's, as you say, what's right and wrong? It's very difficult. On the one hand, I was anxious to blend in as much as possible, although I looked a lot different in those environments. But I was anxious to blend in to experience what the life was like. I wasn't there as a tourist. I was there to experience it, not as a permanent immigrant, but to experience it. But at the same time, I wanted to hang on to some of my own culture for reference. Occasionally, I would have a chance to go to an American store. I'd just walk around the American store because for an hour, it felt like I was back home.
Like you're breathing your own air.
Like I was breathing, that's exactly right, like I was breathing my own air. Because out on the street, it wasn't my own air. And as exciting as that was, it's also tiresome and it's very difficult. So today you're working with One Greater Nashua, and you're trying to help newcomers today follow the same path or journey that you took those years ago. And what's the background for One Greater Nashua? How did that come into being?
The initiative One Greater Nashua, I would say, was the seed was put in the soil 3 years ago, if I'm correct, when during the United Way Giving Day, leaders of Nashua sit around the table and discuss what is our Nashua today, how does it look, how does it live, where is strength and where is realities that we may be overseas. And the reality was that there was a big gap in connection of established leadership and coming new leadership or emerging leadership, and there was definitely disconnection. And I would say, if I can, express this, there were people that at the table didn't represent from both emerging leaders and established leaders. And another question was about health of Nashua, and it was apparent that level of well-being of diverse communities were lower than local community. So from these conversations and effort that was immediately put on, people, United Way developed a proposal, and the grant was given by Endowment of Health to 4 cities in Nashua to address similar gaps. So as we see, it is that the reality, the problem was universal too, maybe experienced differently in different cities of New Hampshire, but it was reality that was not addressed in several years. And that's how One Greater Nashua was formed. To address this gap, people came to a realization that social inclusion, economical vitality, and community engagement, leadership engagement will address this gap. And so there were developed 3 pathways to address One Greater Nashua. One is a navigators group, and this goal group is led by Jen McCormack, director of library, and Ellen Barr, she is a volunteer from Nashua. And this goal group address community involvement through series of conversation in library, through training navigators, basically our neighbors of different countries, different languages, to understand different perspectives and to help newcomers to see these different perspectives and not to be afraid that they lose their own roots. It's not making a homogeneous milk.
Right.
You can be part of society and bring in your values, your habits, your way of living from your country, but also be a fully belonging part of American society. So next is Civic and Business Goal Group, and this goal group address economic vitality of Nashua and also leadership, integration of different leaders, emerging leaders, diverse leaders with the established leaders. And from this year, actually, there is already 5 new leaders from immigrants background. They attended Leadership Great Nashua class, LGN, that is led by Chamber of Commerce. And third group is youth group. And youth group works with the middle school and again helps children to adapt to new world, to help local youth to see actually asset in being introduced to different youth from different countries. And there is also group, coalition group, that helps all these 3 pathways to merge, to support each other. And so once a month, this group meet together. And so anyone can come from the city and also from these goal groups. And they brainstorm actually, human questions, how to live together, how to understand together, how to support each other. And so that is...
That sounds great. I like what you said, actually. I want to pull a couple things out of that. You used the word integration several times. And you also began by talking about primarily a health gap. But none of what you said really was about gaining more access to health care. It was about improving integration, it sounds to me, improving integration into society of the human being. And that improved integration will actually bring about better health. Is that the implication?
Yes, and we went through a few years of layoffs in America, right? The last...
it's not over yet.
It's not over yet. So we know what impact is on psychological life and physical life of people that lose job. And they're American people, so they live and breathe their own air, but they don't work. And it feels like they lose part of their identity.
Absolutely.
They cannot contribute.
That's right.
And can you imagine people that were doctors or growing crop in another country, coming here and working hard and feeling who they are and how they support society and neighbors and family, and I am father, and I am son, and I am brother, and I am actually neighbor, and I am a citizen of my country. And now you come to another country, and you cannot fulfill these needs.
That's right. Well, I know, again, from my time in China, I'm thinking about that as you're discussing it, there was a certain isolation because I'm a pilot. I was not a pilot in China. It's not something I was allowed to do. I'm a flight instructor. These are the things that I do here. And I couldn't do those things there. So part of my work life, which is where I gain not all my identity, but some piece of it and some sense of value to society I was not able to participate in that environment. And because of the language and all the cultural barriers, I tended to be much more isolated there than I am here. And that isolation, I think, contributes to more isolation. It's not always a sense of isolation becomes a motivator to go out and do something. Sometimes a sense of isolation becomes a motivator to stay home and do nothing. And it's a hard cycle to break out of. But you're not asking, and one of the things you said actually in the presentation that you made at City Hall a couple weeks ago, you said it a number of times, you're not looking for charity. And this is not about charity, because charity, in some sense, doesn't contribute to that sense of value that a person has. It's almost a confirmation that, no, you're not able to succeed here. And that's not a message you want to send to people. So you're not talking about charity, right?
Absolutely. And if you ask what is respect, it's not just, oh, I love you or I respect you, but you do what I want you to do, or you don't do anything and I just give you a piece of bread. So that is on one hand. Person wants to feel inner respect to himself, that he contributes to his own security. We all are independent country in America. We are independent, and we want to be sure that we feed ourselves and we don't depend on anyone. And so how would it be for people to come and feel that they depend?
It's not good.
It's not good.
It doesn't fit with the way human beings, no matter what country they're from, doesn't fit with the way we're made.
Absolutely. It's human condition.
That's right.
You have to feel strong inside, and that helps you feel strong outside.
Yes.
So that is number one. And number two, I would tell you, I worked 20 years here in Pfizer and pharmaceutical company, and leading operations. And I was amazed how different people, and I would say diverse, because there were people that worked in manufacturing from different countries. And because they played different role in their countries, and they maybe didn't have such level of technology, the level of bringing ideas and looking at situation outside of the box, as we said, because they didn't have a robot, so they had to develop their tools, how they were more successful, actually, in operation working with bioreactors than local educated people that were framed only in one way of operation. So in this way, I would say we have a lot to learn from each other.
Yes, we do. And we spoke about diversity as being a strength, or being an asset, rather. It's an asset because people do come from different perspectives, and those different perspectives can bring new knowledge, new procedures, new way of looking at things, and these things are an asset to society. But then there's the continuum of strength versus no strength, and I would put unity at one end and disunity at the other. I don't see diversity necessarily on that same continuum. I think that we should be a diverse society with lots of different ideas, but if we can be somehow unified in our goals, then I think we have the strongest possible combination.
Well, absolutely, because if we say that we are living from different, we have to keep different.
Right.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay that each of us, and it's important that each of us preserve our values, our roots, our history, but it is possible to have many homes. You know that? It is possible to have memory of Russia, of Germany, of Africa, Sudan, and be full member of a new society.
And I think that's the goal. My grandparents, my mother's parents, were immigrants from Germany in the early part of the last century. They came over as 13, 14 years old. They didn't know each other, but they moved to Chicago, which is where there was a large German community. They had relatives there, people that sponsored them. And so they went to their own enclave. My grandparents went to a German church, but they tried to get their children to speak English. And as a child around their home, I heard German words, and I didn't know what they were saying. I didn't learn German. I learned English, and they wanted very much for all of us to integrate into American society. They didn't come here to be Germans. They could have stayed in Germany to be Germans. They came here to be Americans. And from my perspective, I'm glad that they wanted my mother and her siblings, and of course us as the grandkids, to integrate into this new society. It's important to integrate. I like the history. We have German food, and I love it because I think to myself, this is where I come from. But I'm here and I'm an American. And I think that's valuable. Sometimes I look at our society from the perspective of those who have been here for a while, and I feel that we do things that prohibit or create hurdles to the integration. And some of them are just labels. For instance, to emphasize diversity, which I think is great. I think diversity is good, but sometimes the emphasis on diversity is on separateness. And we don't want to emphasize the separateness. We'd like to emphasize the different color, for instance, but all part of the same painting, or the different ingredient, but part of the same pot of soup. So these are the challenges that I see. Going along with that, I think about the phenomenon of the hyphenated American label that's put on people. We have African Americans, we have Hispanic Americans, we could have German Americans, we have Italian Americans, we have Irish Americans, we have Russian Americans. These labels, in my mind, while they might encourage someone to retain some sense of their roots, also can create a separateness that prevents integration in the long run.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I remember that when I came to Pfizer, I was hired, and the person who worked with me gave me a tour around and said, oh, we have this and this Russian person in this and this lab, and if you want, they're sitting at this table, do you want to sit with them? And in my mind, I felt the rebellions. I felt that I'm already, that someone assumes that I will feel comfortable just to sit with certain people. And I actually wanted to be engaged and immersed in different culture and experience that, not theoretically. And this desire to understand new place and new life didn't bring automatically disregard to my past. It was equally valued. And it's interesting that I want to mention how you talked about your parents. My parents came here too, and they live here already 20 years, 19 years. And my father, already 85 years old, he likes to write his memoir about concentration camp when he was as a child, German concentration camp. And he writes his memoirs about his childhood and his experience, but he writes this in English. His written English is better than mine. And I'm thinking he doesn't need to learn English to work, right? He doesn't, but that is already language is part of who you are, and you want to experience language, you want to write in this language. So that's, to me, what it means to be integrated.
Right. We retain some of the past, and we bring the past to who we are today.
Yes.
But we're members of a new society.
Yes.
I think that would be hard. I think to my grandparents, they never went back to Germany. They never went back for a visit. My grandmother's mother ultimately came over, but my grandfather never saw his family again. They just left. And that would be very hard to me. But they were able to hang on to some of their German heritage. They lived in a German section of town. They enjoyed that. My grandmother cooked wonderful German food that as a young boy I certainly enjoyed. But yet they wanted to be part of America. And they worked. And they didn't do the same things they did back home. But they came here and they made it work. And they didn't want to be separate. They wanted to be a little different, but they wanted to be integrated into American society.
If I may add to your first question, what is how do I see current OGN and what is going on? And I talk a lot to newcomers, and I ask the same question: what will make you feel happy, or what is so difficult? And you would be surprised that although not many of these people have jobs that they would like to have and didn't fully, actualize themselves in America, but I said, what makes you feel better in all of these economic difficulties? And they said, just sit with you at the table. And you asking what I think, what I feel, do I want to be part of society, what opinion I have about, let's say, high school projects. And he said, at that moment, I feel that I belong somewhere. Because in reality, this period of living your roots and not put roots in another soil, you feel a little bit suspended in the air. And I don't think that it is very comfortable feeling emotionally and physically to feel suspended, not needed, and probably not very secure. And people do want to contribute. I wanted to contribute. I wanted, you just tell me, I want to be loved, to be part of you. Just give me, and I will do it.
Very interesting take on that. And I think that from a standpoint of the person who's been here for a while, I look at our society and I see the integration not occurring. And I see pockets of division, not just pockets of diversity, but pockets of division. And that's troubling to me. I want us to be integrated into an American society that has this rich background, just like the society welcomed my grandparents and my family all those years ago. So I would hope that these pockets of society where people don't feel integrated, I would do whatever I can to help encourage that. And it's not charity, because human beings don't want charity. I don't want charity. Nobody does. We just want to feel like we can contribute. So we're nearly out of time here. If you have anything you'd like to add, if you want people to be able to reach you or reach One Greater Nashua, anything you want to add in the last minute or so?
Well, I think One Greater Nashua has a website. There is Facebook where people communicate to all community. There is many initiatives. There is coalition meeting once a month at United Way. There is plenty of opportunity to meet. The only that I would like to say at the end, and that is maybe not only to newcomers, but actually to local people, that there is a little bit desire to learn, but a little bit hesitation of something different on your part. And just definitely takes just one question to ask, who are you? And just to learn about a person. And then the anxiety of difference starts to go away. So,
Alina, thank you very much for coming in. I look forward to seeing what One Greater Nashua is going to accomplish. If there's anything I can do to help with that integration from my perspective, please let me know. Certainly, as a member of the Board of Aldermen, I would do whatever we can for the city to help in that. I think it's very, very important.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
And I want to say thank you, too, to all you viewers who have tuned in today. We've been talking with Galina Sawketch about welcoming newcomers and integrating them into our society. My name is David Schoeneman. This is Perspectives, and I've been your host today. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.